We gather in the cosmos bright. Stars and ships take flight tonight. In the void where dreams do play. Soul citizens lead the way. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Starry roads in endless skies. Soul citizens we rise. Charting courses never lost. Together the verses crossed. Squadrons call on the horizon. Battles fought, our hearts aren't frightened. In our ships we face the dawn. Soul citizens carry on. Oh, planets spin and light years fly. Boundless space where hopes reside. Brotherhood in every star. Soul citizens, here we are. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Starry roads in endless skies. Soul citizens we rise. Charting courses never lost. Together the verses crossed.
Hello, hello, hello. Greetings, greetings. Welcome back to the Soul Citizens. I am GriffinGamingRPG, and today is Sunday, December the 7th, first weekend in December. Thank you all so much for being here with us. I am joined by my great friend and co-producer, SeriousFun. How are you, my friend?
To be called a great friend by you has made my weekend. I am a better person as a result.
Listen, I can tell y'all this is how you know he's not getting paid, right? Because he's saying nice stuff and I didn't have to pay him to say it. So that's awesome. Otherwise, I think I have to owe him a raise or something. But no, my friend, it is truly an honor to call you a friend. It's over all these years we've gotten to know each other and hang out with each other and form some alliances with things like this and Quantum Vegas. And always happy to have you on with me. Thank you.
And it's good to be back with our community too.
It is.
It is a blessing to be here. It's good to have you all on. And you know, this topic is hot, right? And so, you know, as we go through the show tonight, I'm really excited to offer some hot space opinions and to get some from the chat as well. So
Yeah.
good to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to our other good friend, CC Creator, 46 months. Thank you for that sub, kicking us off for the day. We appreciate that. I see he stole some space bucks 100 about two minutes ago too, so that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Fast Cart's not on tonight, so maybe he's going to try to shut one of us up. I don't know. Maybe that's going to be the deal. I don't know. But again, good to see everybody here. Pagla Mia, I haven't seen you in a while. I'm not saying that you haven't been here. I just haven't seen you in a while. 07, good to see you. 07. Prisoner is always locking it down. Captain Jones, Vaverick, you all, thank you all for being here, kicking things off. Attack Cat, always here. Thank you. We appreciate you all. Y'all always here, like right when we get started. Y'all get to see us from the very beginning. So thanks again. Hope you all are having a great week as we go into December and we're getting ready to go into the holidays. Of course, we've got our in-lore Luminalia series that'll be coming up pretty soon. So let's jump into it because we got a lot of stuff to cover this week. I thought last week was crazy after IAE. I think we actually have more stuff to cover this week than we did last week. So let's go ahead and jump into it before we get into our topic for today. Speaking of IAE, so long from IAE 2955. Thank you all for another fantastic year of IAE. Each year, IAE is in celebration of the immense diversity in spacecraft and ground vehicles throughout the verse. No matter your playstyle, no matter your ambitions, there's something everyone has as we celebrate not just the last year of spacecraft development, but each year before. There's actually a little bit more here that they mention. It says, as we head into 2956, we look for an even brighter future as new releases from RSI, Argo, Misk, Drake, Aegis, Anvil, Gatak, Kruger, and even Origin are set to make their debut with a lineup that speaks to all careers from cargo to combat, salvage to refueling, crafting to transport, and more. At IAE, we believe each spacecraft is a reflection of its pilot and everything we all do to make the verse a better place for citizenry. We hope to continue expanding your universe throughout the coming year, and we look forward to seeing you all again at our next celebration. We were kind of toward the end, Sirius, when we wrapped up last week for IAE. It was still going on. Just real quick, your overall feelings about IAE, because you didn't get to put your 2 cents in last week. So tell us what you think it was, how you felt about it.
Well, you know that if I was People's Alliance, they'd hear all that and call that corpo imperial propaganda, right? Trying to keep the working class down. But you know, I will say this for posterity and for the chat. It's important to remember that the real IAE is not what we see in lore. In lore, we are a satellite version of the IAE, right? The IAE is a big conference that's held at Severus, which is in the Keel system. It's Keel 3.
Right.
And that's the big IAE. But because everybody can't make it to Severus, they hold satellite IAEs around, and it wouldn't be surprising that they hold one in the corporate system of Stanton, right? Where you have a lot of stuff going on. Right, so I like that idea that we will always in Stanton probably have a satellite IAE no matter how big the game gets, right? But that there is something bigger that we might eventually get to.
Yeah.
That being said, I go through an experience with IAE. In the run-up, I can't wait for it to get started. While
Right.
it's happening, I'm like, it's all right. And then when I get ready to leave, I miss it.
Yeah.
But different years, I have different intensities for me. Like last year was the Polaris, right? And I have been waiting for the Polaris for a decade, right? So I'm very excited to get that. This year was the Perseus. And, you know, I know Admiral Kusanagi and other people had the Perseus. I see the Perseus as an accompaniment to the Polaris on patrols and multiplayer, which we'll talk about later. So these last couple IAEs have been very exciting. This one in particular, I thought had a nice diversity of ships, right? Sometimes I'm only waiting on one ship. I was excited about pretty much every offering at this IAE, which was rare for me. So,
yeah, Togi, excuse me for interrupting. Togi, thank you for catching that. I did change it, and it changed back for some reason. So thank you for catching that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't look as good as Kemi, but you know, I can play Kemi if you want.
I even put the title for the show in when we were talking earlier. It didn't go through. Shoot. Thank you, Togi, for being on that. We have to make Togi a moderator or something. I don't know. You got it in there. Yeah, the description went through, but the title didn't go through. That was weird. Okay. We're good now. Thank you, Togi, for catching that. We don't want folks to think we're coming here for the wrong thing, even though we were talking about IAE. Thank you for that. Yeah, I felt the same way. It was an interesting cross section. I think we're used to kind of usually 3 offerings, like a small, medium, and large offering at the conventions, whether it's Invictus or IAE. Of course, everything's available, but those new items. And it was interesting, just the cross section from vehicles, the type of stuff they provided, everything from the scale of, like you said, the Polaris all the way down to the scale of the MDC. I felt that they did a decent job this year, decent job. But there's a lot of curiosity about a lot of things that happened this year. I mean, yeah, there was this abundance of 27 or whatever vehicles that they did. And I mean, don't get me wrong, impressive, but more ships and more ships and more ships. And there's also the side of the fact that people want also more fixes, more gameplay, more mechanics. There's all these different things that we want to see happen in the game. And I think that it's just this next year. I'm just kind of curious to see where things go. Even though they mentioned
Well,
these,
it's like getting a bigger house, right? You get a 12-bedroom house. You can only be in one room at a time.
yeah,
So,
true. Yeah, and if there's no furniture, a house is not a home, as
right,
Luther would say, right? So we really want to
right.
see the furniture come in along with the expansion of things. Whether it's the expansion of the systems, expansion of ships, we also want the mechanics and gameplay that accompany it. But there seemed to be a reasonable amount of people who I watched a lot of videos of people who said, "Oh, I've never played Star Citizen for the first time. They're doing the free fly Star Citizen for the first time," and virtually everybody I saw enjoyed themselves in spite of if they ran into things. The other thing that was interesting is that many of those people partnered up with people. They weren't necessarily solo. I did see a few people who came in solo, but there were also many of the videos I saw where there were some friends that they joined up with or somebody who brought them in and showed them things, and it seemed to increase the value of them enjoying the game and understanding it within the time frame of the free fly. So
To your point, it was almost always that for me. Somebody who brought somebody in, but every year I always worry about the person who comes in without any of that. And the videos that I saw this year, where the person came in on their own, it seemed to be a better experience really than it ever had been.
Okay.
So that also was important, I think.
Okay, cool. This next one, believe it or not, I don't have a visual for. I don't know how I missed it. It was the subscriber promotion. Would you mind reading that? And I'm going to see if I can pull it up very quickly for people.
Sure. The jump point to Nyx is open, and with it, new challenges, adventures, foes, and fights. To celebrate the all-new system, this month's flair is inspired by a group you'll be seeing more of in the coming months. The Shattered Blade Outlaw Gang. December's vehicle of the month is the Tumbril Nova, a ferocious tank, or tonk, outfitted with a massive Slayer cannon. Imperator subscribers can also cart their tanks to distant reaches of the galaxy aboard the Anvil Asgard.
Okay, cool. Here we go again. This thing does not like. There's something going on with what do you call it? Chrome. Where this thing does not like to detect stuff in Chrome anymore, so maybe I'll have to do it in Microsoft Edge. I hate to.
Or Firefox is like a version of Chrome, right?
But I don't have Firefox on this particular computer, so I'll have to use. Matter of fact, I don't even see that down here. Where is?
All right. While you're trying to get that, let me give you my thoughts on the subscriber promotion.
Please do. Feel free. Please do.
I am excited for both of these vehicle options. The Tumbril Nova, it'll be exciting to come back to that ground vehicle after so long away for me. I don't own one, but this will give me a chance to pull out one, experience any improvements, any changes, be reminded of what the experience is supposed to be in that. I'm 6'7", and when I was Naval ROTC in college at one point, my captain was a tank driver and kept trying to get me to commit to that as a career, and I said, "No, I'm going to be in the fetal position too much." But now out here at Star Citizen, we can get to do that, so that's going to be exciting. Okay. As well as the Anvil Asgard, I don't own that, and I am very excited. I have already pulled that out.
Really?
Just to get an experience of what that was like. Yeah, I don't like that ladder. I just don't like it.
Really? The ladder messes with you, huh? Okay.
But the overall ship experience is super solid, so I'm enjoying that.
All right. Cool. All right.
How about you?
Well, I don't know. I've been having such weird feelings about the flair they've been putting out, right? And there are things that the community.
You don't like that Shattered Blade thing right there?
I do like hologram stuff, right? From a collector standpoint, right?
Right.
But from a standpoint of when I build my
Like
house,
utility.
am I going to have all these holograms like a little museum somewhere? I mean, how do they enhance what I'm doing for my residence or whatever? And I mean, some of the holograms, like that thing, the Valacar thing, that thing's like 18 feet tall. It's like, where am I going to put this thing later on? The big head of Wicklow is gigantic. I mean, it's cool stuff. And I know some people put it in their hangars, but I'm not trying to live. Listen, y'all, I'm an Origin guy. I'm not living in my hangar. Y'all can have that. I'm trying to live in my house, wherever it is I build, right? So there are these other things. Don't get me wrong. I think the shirt and stuff is cool, but I know that there are things that the community asks for. Like the community, I don't know. The flare thing, you know what? I shouldn't complain because usually when they put out armor, that's when I really complain because it's like, oh, more armor again, right? But I would love for them to give us some more interactive things that and maybe later on they will be meaningful. So I just kind of tell myself that maybe these will be somewhere down the road. These things will have some significance, not just be tokens of, oh, I was here when they dropped it. I want some things that are that and also like some ooh and ah to it. But again, I'll have to wait and see if that's what they end up doing, something like that. As far as
I definitely hear you. I definitely hear you. I feel like there's flair that I will keep in my hangar, and there's flair I would want to bring to where I live.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Exactly.
And the Wicklow stuff, the Shattered Blade stuff, these big things, I think they're going to stay in the hangar, right? They'll be hangar flair.
Big monster. Yeah. I mean, if you put them in the bays or something or some store, that's cool, But I don't know. I'm just, I don't know. I don't know what I'm looking for. I just know I'm looking for something a little something, but I do like the hologram stuff that they do. The shirt here, I do like this one. It's distinctive. Anything that they're doing that's allowing the players to be more as individuals and selective, so everybody's not looking like a clone of everybody. I'm down for it, And me, I'm a clothes hog, so I'm going to definitely be using this stuff. As far as the ships goes, I've got the Asgard. I still love the Asgard. We see some step up improvements of things that they did from the Valkyrie day. There's still some more stuff that needs to be done, but I love that because I can put a vehicle in it, take it somewhere. I've done cargo with it. I've done different things with it. I just want to crew it up now. I want to crew it up. I want to have a couple people riding with me in it. That's my big thing that I want to do next. Okay, we had Roadmap Roundup that came by. No, this is old. Is this old? No, this is new.
No, this is the one.
Yeah, this is the new one, right? Okay. So for Roadmap Roundup, we're getting a loot refresh, new Wicklow ship offerings in 4.5. There's a Wicklow rebalance coming in 4.5. The RSI Meteor has now been added to the contested zones for the hangar. There's going to be some new weapon attachments, and there's going to be some new ship flight tuning changes towards snub fighters and interceptors. More tweaking to ships. They've been kind of doing this through different ones over the last few patches, and now they're on snubs and interceptors. And I'm curious to see because interceptors kind of lost a little bit of their oomph. So I'm really curious to see where they'll go with that. I'm not sure how snub fighters are handling right now. I haven't heard anybody talking about them recently, so I'm curious about that. I'm not sure what's happening. At one point, people.
No, I was gonna say I think the conversation right now has been around the adding of ship offerings to Wicklow in particular, in general, and the adding of the Idris P in particular.
It's that is happening.
Yes, they have added the Idris, and a lot of people didn't think that they would do it, but they are doing it.
They added it to Wicklow.
Wicklow, yeah. In fact, there has been a leak of the recipe, and I don't normally agree with Salty Mike on anything really ever. But when he said the other day that he would not be opposed to giving the leak, that RSI switches it up for the release, so that people who tried to get ahead and the leak is disparaged, I would not have a problem with that either. Right? Okay. The release is the release. Stop worried about the leak.
Okay.
And play the game. You know, everybody's always trying to be done already.
Yeah. That's a thing being done already. Zaldibus Nona, unique name. Thank you so much for the sub. Appreciate you dropping in. Glad to have you with us. We really appreciate you.
But you can get the Asgard, the Prospector, the Raft, and the L-21 Wolf, which was released in August.
Oh,
Now in 4.5 when it comes out via Wicklow.
Okay.
But I think they waited the longest to put the Idris on there. But the Idris is on there. It is healthy. It is, I think, appropriate. I think it is right for them to have the Wicklow pathway. People will argue about what that pathway consists of, and I think they will argue about that through time immemorial. Right? But the fact that there is a pathway that doesn't say give us money or give us new money, you can just go play the game and get these things, I think is healthy.
Yeah. Balancing out how it's done. And I know it was tough for a lot of people. Sometimes there were certain mechanics that just was like, you know, CIG, you guys got to do it better. Like when people had to turn in things to Wicklow and they had to do it individually, like one by one. That was a horrible mechanic to have to put in there. You know, people should have been able to do something in bulk, have everything in a crate, drop it, boom, it's all done and it's counted. So I know that Wicklow has been a struggle and CIG has been trying to make that process better. When I heard how people were having to do it, it turned me off completely. I did one thing. Listen, when I had to take one candy bar and one pop can, that was enough for me. When I heard people taking dozens of things over there, I'm like, you know, it's not my thing. I have yet to go after anything at Wicklow. Honestly, I haven't obtained one thing at Wicklow yet because I really wanted them to flesh that out. I wanted them to flesh it out more before I started putting the energy into it.
I've done a couple things, but it's been more organic, right? Like it's been a situation where I've played the game
and you got some stuff,
and then I looked up and realized that I had 90% or 100% of the thing I would need to get the, let's say the Volt rifle, but in white so that it goes with my white snow outfit or whatever, right?
Got to be coordinated.
You know,
Got to be coordinated.
and camouflage, right? So, but like that felt much better to me to just look up from having played the game and realize that I am in possession of things I can just take over.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, because I've just played the game, I have now a new thing that I wanted, right? From Wicklow.
Gotcha.
Right? Then it would be to your point to look at the list and then feel like, you know, you about to go to work. I'm not here to go to work, right? So.
Yeah. I think I've become way more selective of what I want to grind for. You know, some things I don't mind knowing. I know I'm going to grind, so I do it. And then other things, it's like you said, I'd rather they come more out of organic gameplay than, you know, just the fact that I'm trying to hurry up and get it. So, okay, that's the roadmap roundup. This week we had an ISC. Last week it was an SCL. This week we went back to an ISC. It was a pre-recorded show that was recorded in November with Jarrett Huckabee and Thorsten. And it was called Talking with Thorsten. And this was a continuing conversation on engineering. And, you know, they opened the show up kind of, which is something that was funny that they did to me, because I can't tell you how many people said this before the video started. Oh, this is like the 6th or 8th video. And then it was funny that they opened it up themselves, confessing that it had been like 8 videos on engineering, right? Yeah, I thought it was just funny because there were several content creators who, even before they played the videos, they said, and they even laughed themselves. But engineering is virtually here. We've had engineering pop in many different ways through Arena Commander. We've had it in testing, tech preview, so on and so forth. But now we have it in the upcoming 4.5 release. And there's been a lot of folks who have jumped in trying it out. There's already been many adjustments and changes, and we know that there needs to be even more to refine it. I have not done any in-flight engineering. I have not gone out in any combat or any battles or traveled anywhere and tried to do it. Everything I've been doing has been more in the lab. I've been in the hangar, taking out various different ships, trying different things, taking things out, disconnecting, turning things up, down to see what the impact and effects are of engineering. But I know that you've had some time, and I know some of the folks in Soul Citizens on Friday, you guys went out one day with the Perseus or Idris and did some things that way too. Let's talk. Well, give me first of all any thoughts you have on the ISC, because our show is going to be about the engineering thing. So I guess we should just talk about really the ISC. Any thoughts you had on this?
Yeah, I appreciated, the stuff up front being funny about the fact that we've been playing with this for a while, right? But I think the most important thing, or the most significant thing that I heard said during the show was Thorsten at the end, where he said, listen, there's going to be tweaks, there's going to be this, there's going to be that. But this is a feature that is not going anywhere. And the language that he used was, this is Star Citizen. This is the definition of Star Citizen, is to have this type of thing in it. And that stood out to me, and it stood out to others that I've dialogued with in the community, because, for him to explicitly call that out, my guess is that comes from him also having been reinforced by leadership there. But the bottom line is that was a submission that they kept in on that video, because they want to let people know, yeah, we're wrestling with the feature. It still needs to be refined. And when we say refined, what you're really talking about is 30 to 60 different things in balance with each other, right, that need to be refined. But the idea of engineering is not going anywhere, right? And I love that, because what that means is the folks that were hoping and are hoping that Star Citizen will become, Battlefield or Call of Duty, or become this more simplified experience and descend out of its intention to be a universe sim or a sim, or have sim features, into something a lot more juvenile. This is the pushback on that, right? And for me, that works for me. That's not going to work for everybody. And we've talked about this before, Griff, where as the game comes out of dream phase and conversation phase and becomes more and more realized and has to make choices, some people will like the choices that are made and some people won't, right? And even the people that like most choices ain't going to like all choices, right? So, this is one of those things, right, where really they had the opportunity, because he said at the beginning, when they say, well, what's changed? And he's like, the major direction of the feature. Right? It's gone from, being essentially busy work to really being focused on extending the life of the ship and not busy work.
Yeah.
But at that point, they could have said, well, we don't even need this at all. Right? And it feels like, given the language that they're using in this video, it feels like they maybe they considered that and they went, no, to have this type of thing is Star Citizen. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. I think the thing that stood out to me was he made a statement and said that we didn't give the players everything yet because we didn't want to overwhelm them. Which is part of, the comment that I say to people all the time, is that you're just seeing the initiation of it, the beginning of it, the beginnings of something. This is not it. I know a lot of times, sometimes people feel that when we get something from CIG, that this is saying this is the way it's going to be. And then they worry about, well, I thought it was going to be this, or I thought it was going to be that. And quite often we do eventually move closer and closer to whatever this and that is, but it's a step, it's a process. I know it would be great for us to get everything in one clump and say, here it is, and let's figure it out. But evidently, from people I've talked to in gaming and development and videos I've watched, it doesn't happen that way. I know we would like for it to happen that way, but evidently, engineering, this is not the stop of it. There's more aspects, and may not be more that the engineer has to do, but it might have to do with more with this engineering. How does that connect with someone else on the ship, or something else on the ship, or some other new role that we'll see come up? So, the fact that he said, we held back some things because we didn't want to overwhelm the players was something that really stuck out to me, because there's already a lot of overwhelming going on now. A lot of people felt frustrated because there was no quote unquote manual when this came out. They had the design document came out on Wednesday, and they said it was going to be Thursday, but it ended up dropping it on Wednesday. And it at least gave people a better understanding of how things were supposed to operate and balance. By the way, Admiral Kusanagi, who's a part of our team, was with us today, and he was sharing about the idea of having some time for people who want to get together and go over engineering together in different ships, that maybe we would do something like that. And I think a lot of you all know the Soul Citizens on Friday night. They get together and hang out and do stuff, just have fun in the game and try different things. And I suggested that he get with Captain Jones, who, along with Fast Cart, kind of handle and schedule any type of activities we do. So in the future, they are going to set something up like that. We just kind of want to let the engineering thing kind of, the dust settle from it, so it's more stable, because as you guys know, things have already been changing in relation to shields and armor and blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. Once that kind of gets locked in, hopefully we're going to have some time for people to be able to come in on Friday nights with us. And, we start with something as simple as an Intrepid, work our way all the way up to something like an Idris, and you've got questions, take some ships out, have fun, see what we learn, what we get right, what we get wrong. It doesn't mean that you have to become an engineer, but it does mean that engineering is going to be a part of understanding how your ship operates, whether you're out there solo or whether you're playing with friends. So it's just something for us to talk about and think about in the future. But yeah, I enjoyed the episode. It wasn't the extra long episode that we had for the SCL, which was great because we didn't need another one of those. But it was good to see Thorsten and at least giving us updates. And it seems like they feel very good about where they've gone so far. And he also spent time thanking the team that had been working with him over the past few years on this, which was really nice as well. So that's that.
And soliciting feedback.
Yes, big time. Big time.
At the same time, they said, this feature isn't going anywhere, but we want to hear from you.
Yep.
Right. And so
yep.
I would encourage everybody, both on the chat tonight and listening to this video going forward, give them your feedback.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It is important that they hear from you about how this can be refined. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Last but not least, our sneak peek for this week. Luminalia sneak peek. I don't know. When I saw this, I recognized what it was, but I'm hoping it's more than what I'm thinking it is. So I'll let you go first. Did you get any idea of what this was for you?
I feel like I know that shape.
Yeah.
Look and feel.
Yeah.
But I have a particular outlook on Luminalia.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My outlook on Luminalia is this is just straight fun, right?
Yeah.
Just straight fun. Some people go, out of these 12 drops that they give us some utility. Give us some. I'm a little different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like, have some fun. Give us some fun items. When we look back and start having our homes and things, we're gonna like these little fun items and these little knickknacks that sort of flesh out the universe in fun little ways. So I'm good with. Yeah. What do you think this is, though?
Well, it's definitely. I mean, we've seen the planter, right? We've seen that. We've got a couple of those already in the game, and it's in Banu, and it's basically something like Merry Christmas or something in Banu. It's Banu language there. My or Happy Luminalia, whatever. But the fact that they say a surprise awaits, and it's like I know what it is, so it ain't that big of a surprise, and you can see it casting a shadow down that looks similar to what would be like the shape of a pine tree.
Right.
But what's the surprise? If I can see that, I'm trying to figure out. I'm hoping that it's something else. I'm hoping maybe it's something that spins around and plays music. I don't know, but I'm hoping something. Let me give you a throwback real quick, and then we're going to get into the show. Do you remember when they came out with the plants on the stand with the 6 globed domed plants? You remember those? When you got those? Okay.
Yeah, that's way back.
Okay, right. Okay, and they were very cool. They look very nice. They actually turn when you watch them very slowly. They rotate and stuff. Very, very cool.
Right.
And I kept saying, oh, I hope these is something that, like, when we actually get a place to live, we can actually plant these or something, right? Like, take seeds from it or something. I want something that's, like, interactive like that. I know what you're just saying about utilitarian, but don't get me wrong. They are pretty and they're nice, but it's like, I want this thing to be like a Venus flytrap or something. I don't know. I just want It's something that's not static, you know. But you know, it's Luminalia, you know. So take it for what it is. Maybe there's something, I don't know. Maybe if you get this and you take it to Wicklow, he'll give you a 890 jump. I don't know. I'm just wondering what it's going to be.
Here's the 100% lock hot space opinion thing I absolutely know.
Okay.
If they were to take away Luminalia, people would be upset.
People would be having a fit. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I agree. Point made. Point made. Okay. That's that, gang. That was Star Citizen this week. So at least most of it. There was some more things, but you know, it is what we've covered for right now. We're going to go ahead and jump into our topic for today, and that title is "Man Your Stations." Man your stations, mind you. I can't say woman your station, but you get the idea, right? You know, we want people to consider this idea of what it means. It's not, you know, I don't want this to just be about the engineering piece, even though that is kind of like the bulk of what we're going to be covering today. I really want to wrestle in serious. Maybe we can have a conversation about this. Is wrestling with this idea that the community has been struggling with solo gameplay, multi-crew gameplay, and Man Your Station can fit either one. It doesn't necessarily mean, you know, that you have to be in a multi-crew, multiplayer role. Manning a station, whether you're flying a ship, whether you're doing repair to your ship, whether you're maintaining your ship, you know, whatever it is you're doing, salvage, whatever, there's this idea of taking on some role or position in the game. And so give me your feedback on what you've been sensing or hearing when there's been this concern about, you know, everything seems to be going solo. Everything seems to be going PvP. Everything seems to be going multi-crew. You know, have you got any thoughts about those conversations and CIG and stuff like that?
Yeah, I feel like everybody's wrong and everybody's a little bit right. So, you know, where you stand on this depends on where you sit, right? If you sit down and look at your account and your account goes back to 2012 and 2013, then you might be somebody who can recall a conversation on Wingman's Hangar, or Reverse the Verse, or 10 for the Chairman, where somebody mentioned at some point that they might do something around AI and NPCs and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
Or you might be able to look at the 170 hours of Tony Z conversation and pull out a sentence where he references, you know, your ability to do something, and you held on to that, right? In 2014, you held on to that. And now, you know, to my point earlier of the game coming out of all of this churn of ideas and coming down into a reality, you're not yet seeing that and be upset, right? For me, I always had a belief that big ships would require crew to be most effective, but that there would always be smaller ships that could be soloed, and the same thing would happen for features and experiences. Crafting with lots of people would be able to allow you to do certain things at a certain level, but there would always be crafting for individuals. Exploration with lots of people would allow you to do certain things with a certain pace or a certain distance, but there would always be exploration for individuals. And so I always came through this project with an expectation that CIG would hold in tension these ideas, but that some things they would just look at some things and make them make sense, right? Mm-hmm. When you get into Polaris, it just made sense that you would need a lot of people to make that work well, you know, because I can only sit, like I said earlier, you could have 12-bedroom house, but you can only be in one room at a time. You can have all these stations in the Polaris, but you can only sit at one station at a time.
So let me stop you there for a second. So did CIG intentionally or inadvertently create a mindset about Star Citizen when they allowed people to fly adequately a multi-crew ship?
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could argue that, but you could also when I bought my Polaris, I can fly it. Right.
Yeah, but you couldn't
But I
just
can
fly
also
it.
walk around and see that I can't be at the pilot seat and at the torpedo station at the same time.
But yeah, you could walk around and see it, but you were able to.
I was able to go between the stations.
What I'm saying is like, okay, like engineering wasn't in, right? And because
Right.
engineering wasn't in, there was a lot of stuff that you could do, right? If you took damage, all you had to do was go fly somewhere, get some repairs, and be done. You didn't have to physically get up, go to the different components, pull them, do all that other stuff. So I'm saying, whether it was because technology was being built or whatever the case may be, I'm wondering, like, if, in other words, and this is, I'm going back to what you said earlier. If you were around back in the early days and you really paid attention, you knew that this was coming. You knew that this whole breakdown of people being able to sit in different positions, having roles, having positions, assigning permissions. This person does this as a weapons officer, security person, engineer, medical. You knew that. But if you came in post 2018, 2019, when you didn't see reverse the verse and around the verse and ship shape and all this other stuff that existed. And if you were just kind of absorbing community and maybe watching the ISC from time to time and not really watching SCL, and you got your Idris or whatever ship that allowed you to do something and not have to have a crew, I'm just wondering if those sentiments and feelings, and we're not even talking about the people that are talking about the AI and blades and all that other stuff and NPC stuff. That's a whole nother thing. I'm just wondering whether or not that psyche got built up over those few years, 3, 4, 5 years. And now that this is coming, because people have gotten used to playing that game, playing that game that allowed them to take out their Connie to whatever, other than like a Hammerhead, right? I mean, that was probably the one ship you really had to have some people with. But people were taking Redeemers out, right, and slaughtering by themselves at one point. Mm-hmm. And it's obviously a multi-crew ship. People were taking Corsairs out, slaughtering by themselves. Obviously a multi-crew ship.
To this day, you still see Idrises with the laser beam. You'll see 10 of them. Mm-hmm. You scan the ship, and it's 10 individual people.
Yeah. yeah.
So I get it. That CIG has not helped themselves here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And maybe it was impossible to, I mean, I'm not saying impossible because anything's possible, but I just worry that if that's the route that they took, if they created their own Frankenstein, right?
Yeah, they could have, even with the F5 wars, mm-hmm. they could have added a separate acknowledgement before purchase mm-hmm. that said to people, you're buying a ship that is intended for multi-crew gameplay, mm-hmm. right? They could have done that. Mm-hmm. And yes, gamers don't read. Cyberwolf's funny because he's telling you to not say gamers don't read because the stuff's been up for a while. But and gamers don't read, right? But there is something to the idea that when they then complain, mm-hmm. that the community around them goes, you clicked and acknowledged that they could have done that. Now, it might have cut their Idris sales in half.
Yeah.
I still don't think it would have harmed them. I still think they would have sold every Idris they wanted to sell.
Yeah. I was looking at what Lou Hodo said and said you can still go someplace and land and pay to have repairs done. That's not changing. Yeah, and for most players, no. And for most players, they will currently just claim their ships. And that is the point, Hodo, that I'm talking about. There are things that are currently in the game that allow players to do things that later on aren't supposed to happen. You're not supposed to be able to claim your ship to do stuff. That's exactly my point. The idea of repair and stuff and going someplace is easy right now because the universe is filled with all these locations you can go to. But ultimately, it's supposed to be where we're relying on other players and finding people within groups that do the repairs. Sure, we'll still have some places to go to, but I'm just saying, I wonder if the space that they've created for testing also sets up a belief in us that this is the way the game will be. And then when it starts to move toward what it's supposed to be, it freaks people out. People start going crazy because they've gotten used to the test environment, not understanding what the 1.0 and beyond environment is supposed to look like, I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not trying to be some heavy diagnosis on psychology. I'm just saying, as we were talking, I'm saying as you were talking, it just made me kind of wonder, has CIG, is that the byproduct. You know, the negative side of what they've done is that it has created people expecting the game to be a certain kind of way when, unless you knew from the very beginning that a lot of this stuff had been talked about, it would be very easy for these people not to know that these changes they were coming. You know, they were, and a lot of people base their gameplay. I watched a video today, a guy talking about why the gameplay, what did he say? He said something about his gameplay and wasting his gameplay time. And he was talking about that. And as I was sitting there listening to him, I was like, y'all, I know I'm going to make somebody mad when I say this. You're playing a game that you know is broken, busted, PTU, and everything else, and then you feel like you're wasting your game time when it doesn't work.
Yeah, I feel like
I know I'm sounding bad, y'all, but it's like you go to the amusement park and somebody tells you, hey man, you know, this roller coaster's kind of rickety and they had about 5 accidents on it already. You say, yeah, man, I want to take the ride. And, you know, and your car flies off and you get mad. It's like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I know that's a crazy illustration, but
no, you in having both of us on, the problem is you got opinion 1 and opinion 1A, because I'm not far from that.
Yeah.
In that, you know, I have a real problem with that even that language of don't waste my time, right? Like again, you know, the whole gaming culture is speed running. I want it to be done now. Why can't the game be over with already? And then why can't I be on to the next abomination of AAA horrificness, you know? And the fact that to this point CIG has laid out systems that's a bit of a rebuke to that, right? There's been some places where they've made, you know, the elevators move quicker or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but relatively a relative rebuke to that, for me is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
And so yes, and somebody said it in the chat, all change freaks people out.
Yeah, change is change. Yeah, change just does that.
Change is change. But your point of how are they managing the change? How are they communicating? And, you know, sometimes in an organization, you got to tell people over communicate, right? Because when you tell them over communicate, they do adequate communication, right? They feel it's over communication, but it's really just adequate communication.
Yeah.
And I think there can be a conversation around, has CIG adequately communicated, over communicated, effectively communicated at each phase where they think they want to go? Or is that mitigated by some other sensibility, right? Marketing sensibility or whatever, right? I feel like they could continue to improve in that area so that, you know, again, people have their experience with CIG, and then they bring how they feel about that to a community. And if other members of the community are going, no, CIG's been telling you this, and CIG's been, that helps, right? The problem is when they come back to the community and everybody goes, yeah, no, they didn't say nothing about that. That's a problem.
That's a problem. Okay. That's a problem. All right, guys, we're going to do our commercial break real quick, and then we're going to jump into our topics. That was just our little warm up to get into it. So stick around for a minute, just a 1-minute commercial, and we'll be right back, and we'll be talking about Man Your Station. Hello, greetings to you. Thank you for being here. Hope you are having a great week in the beginning of December. Thank you for joining me and my good friend, as I said earlier, SeriousFun today, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. It's going to be just us talking, just like we've been doing now, candidly, so that's it. Next week, we're going to be doing our update on 4.5. Hopefully, it'll be further along. We know everybody's got it in PTU access right now, and then after that, we'll be doing our show called Holiday Wishes that we do every holiday season, and we've got a very special giveaway that you want to be here for. We're going to be dropping some clues as we get closer to it, but you don't want to miss that giveaway on the Holiday Wishes show, which I think is the 21st. That's our last show for 2025 that we'll do this year, okay? Sirius, you got anything you want to say? You got about 10 seconds.
Well, that everybody here, you're a blessing. Thank you for supporting what we're doing. We're going from strength to strength in 2026, but we can't do it without you. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely, absolutely. He did that right in 10 seconds too. Well, we are back. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you all as always, and hope you guys are having a good time with us today. Let's jump into it, my friend. Mein Freund. We need to kick this off. We're basically, just so you guys will know, we're going to put the chat. I hope Fast Card is here. I think he's here. We're going to drop this link into the chat. This is actually the patch notes. There have been a bunch of them this week. So I tried to grab the one that had the bulk of the information, but there have been some things that have changed. So just if we get something wrong, just feel free to let us know in chat. But this is talking about everything we've been testing in 4.5 in PTU. And as you all know, PTU is available, I think, to Wave. Is it to everybody? I know it was Wave 3 the other day. I've been busy this weekend. Do you know, is it to everybody now?
It's all waves now.
It's all waves now?
Waves
okay, so everybody gets a chance to take a look at it, okay? Going to do some little bit of reading here, but most of what you're getting is the dialogue that's in the patch notes, and we're just going to talk about it. Thanks, Sin. All right. Engineering and Resource Network. The new engineering system introduces a comprehensive ship management experience that transforms how players interact with their vessels. This system creates dedicated gameplay roles for engineers aboard multi-crew ships while also providing solo pilots with new depth in ship maintenance and combat survival. Engineering encompasses power management, component health monitoring, damage repair, fire suppression, and system prioritization. Understanding these interconnected systems is essential for keeping your ship operational during and after combat, exploration, and everyday flight operations. So this is not just tied into when you get into a fight. Serious, what I want to go to you about is talk about this change, because CIG came up with this change where they went into this thing with the resource network, right? That became what they called this thing, right?
It used to be the pipe system.
The pipe system, exactly. And some of you may remember, this goes into the whole thing about change again. Back in the day when Chris tried to describe this thing to us before it became into realization of how there were conduits and pipes that literally ran through the ship. And this is one of the things that when they were designing the ships, they said made things very difficult. These ships actually, the different parts, the wings and the fuselage, and they all actually connect and communicate information. When there's physical damage to the ship, that information is registered throughout the ship to a central HUD or display, the MFD. And if you want to change something or react to it, it actually changes and affects that particular part of the ship. It's not just kind of a generic thing, and it gets down to the minutia of actually doing that. And so this took time to develop. And some of you remember, like even when we first saw the internals of these ships, we saw this stuff, this intricate stuff all going through the ship. And even though you don't see it from the outside, when your ship would break apart, or if you kind of glitch through, you would see all these different things going, saying, what is all that? Why are they putting so much energy and time into all this stuff? Well, that was a part of it, was the pipe network, which now is what they call the resource network. Anything you want to toss in on this series before we push forward?
The only other thing I'll add to this is this system also is the foundational tech that will allow them to speak to what happens when Maelstrom works, right? So when a particular piece of your ship in the Maelstrom system breaks, they can tie that to resource network outcomes, right? And they can do that a lot more effectively than they can with the old pipe system, right? So this not only underpins engineering, but engineering and how it works will give us it's about information, right?
Yeah.
And Maelstrom and that system is about information, and these things I think will tie together very well. So
yeah. And also the fact that they say that this isn't just about combat. This is about, you said it earlier when you opened up, about maintaining your ship, right? Maintaining the life of your ship, making sure that you're running optimum. If you just want to go out and do touring and ride around, you want to make sure that everything is running well on your ship in case there's an encounter, or just because of the fact that maybe you've done 10, 15 runs and you didn't realize that if this next run, maybe my quantum drive, the wear on it is only at 10%, and I need to get a new one. All these different aspects. Doesn't mean you have to become Scotty, but it does mean that we become much more in tune, pardon the expression, with our ships, and not just the fact that we know what paint is on it, but we also start to understand how the ships operate, their efficiency levels. You know, a lot of times we've been looking at the efficiencies of weapons. You know, we know we're tricking out our ships and everything. That's kind of, you know, some folks have got this stuff down to the meters and the seconds and the DPS and all this other stuff. But now this is kind of moving into the areas of our components that are on our ships. And one of the things that I've, you know, serious as we go through this, I've been kind of curious about. I mentioned this to Captain Jones and him, is that most of the testing that I've seen people doing, I'm not saying everybody's done it this way, guys. I'm just saying most of the ones I've seen, people have been basing their reactions on stock loadouts. And so I'm curious to see, how does a class D versus a C versus a B versus a A operate? What levels of not just, you know, wear, but, you know, damage, you know, how much damage they're able to take, their durability. I'm really curious to see where those things land, right? Is there significance in, you know, and listen, class Ds are in the universe for a reason. Nobody buys them, right? But they're in the universe for a reason. And at some point, people will have to buy them. I guarantee you, because they wouldn't put them in there, right? Maybe class As and class Bs will be so difficult to find, you know, or so rare or whatever. Maybe it's
maybe pyro is that's all you can get.
That's all you can get, right? If you get busted.
Or maybe the economy changes in a place and that becomes all you can get.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. So I am curious to see where they're going to go with that. But, you know, again, there's lots of testing. Let's see, multi-crew engineering. Would you mind reading that one for me?
Yeah, multi-crew engineering, the engineer role. Let me see if I'm reading the right one.
Yeah, multi-crew. That's it. The engineering role. That's the one you're at. You're on the right one.
On larger vessels, dedicated engineers will be imperative, keeping your ship ready during and in between encounters. Extending the life of your ship is one of your engineer's main goals through various tasks, including monitoring the ship's status during combat, prioritizing repair tasks, managing power distribution, fighting fires, and replacing and fixing components. Having clear communication between your captain, pilot, and engineers is a must. This will include decision-making for what emergencies to prioritize over another. And as the engineer, you will have the tools at your disposal to give information about your ship's current state to all members of your crew, starting with the engineering screen.
I remember.
So you take,
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, you take that, and which is, you know, I think when we look back, there will be moments of massive change and massive shift in the Star Citizen journey to 1.0 and beyond. Right? We're in that right now. We're in a massive shift. Because if you take the engineer role as a gameplay experience and a gameplay experiential function, and you take the previous piece you just read about engineering and the resource network, gameplay, you know, in a certain way has an opportunity to shift. I know it shifts for me, right? I'm going from having a number of ships around which I have a general understanding to thinking about which ships I want a relative mastery of, right? And that's a different set of gameplay, right? Than thinking, all right, I've got a standard loadout on X amount of ships. I'm going to do a mission. Let me just take the ship that applies best. Right? I don't think you start there anymore. I think you have an opportunity to start with, you know, let me take my Crusader Intrepid, or let me take my Constellation Andromeda, and really understand my ship and its capabilities and its performance in all these different scenarios, right? So now gameplay will include discovering, to your point, what does it mean when I have Class D level components in here, civilian, Class D industrial, Class C, what happens when I put all competitive, all stealth, right? How does it function under all these conditions? What does tuning the ship look like? What best mix? That level of depth, first of all, the opportunity to have that level of depth in the engineering role and with this network differentiates Star Citizen, I think, in a lot of different ways. But secondly, that's different gameplay. That's different hours in the game, right? Than it is just going out and doing a mission, right? Because, and hopefully the reward is, right, mastering the engineering screen, mastering these skills, having this dedicated engineering understanding on your team or having it within yourself, hopefully allows for that. You know, how have I extended the life of this ship? How have I gotten value out of the ship when I do go and do these things, right? How do I create survivability, right? All of that stuff. And so for me, the Star Citizen goes from, yes, this compelling notion that had 3 dimensions to a compelling notion that now has 30 dimensions. You know, that's for me. I just had to call that out because just these 2 things, the implementation of the resource network and the role of the engineer and the tools, I think has the opportunity to give depth to everything.
So let me ask you a question then, because they talk about the communication between the pilot, the captain, and the engineer. You know, I'm just going old school here, but you know, I'm trying to picture something like Star Trek: The Next Generation, right? Picard's doing stuff and he's telling Data to do this, that, and the other as he's piloting the ship. And then every once in a while, Geordi gets the opportunity to yell upstairs and say something's wrong. You know, Captain, if we do this, but that's about the most the dialogue happens. And the captain tells him, do what you got to do, and that's it. But I don't know if that's going to be the scenario here. I see scenarios where the engineer could end up catching the blame. You know, and if the pilot can't accomplish something because the engineer made a decision that maybe they thought was the right decision, whether it was not enough power to this or the weapons officer couldn't fire because the engineer made a decision that was either too quick or too slow. Maybe the captain didn't articulate, you know, because this is one of the things I'm concerned about. I'm hoping, and for those of you who know what I'm kind of going with here, I'm hoping that it's not just the engineer who's looking at this stuff, but it's also the person who's the captain of the ship. That they're looking at their MFD and seeing what the engineer is looking at. And then they're saying what they want done in alignment, in agreement with the engineer. Because to blindly listen to your engineer, who is looking down at a screen, not looking at what's going on strategically around them, might be a problem. So how we communicate with each other, you know what I mean, to make that right decision.
But again, that fosters new gameplay, right?
Right.
I mean, what you got me thinking about is that scene in the seminal work that is Star Trek: The Motion Picture, particularly the director's cut with that 18-minute opening, right? But we'll go past that. But there's that scene where Kirk doesn't know the ship. And he asks for something to happen, and Decker goes, belay that order.
Right.
And later on, Kirk's like, why did you interfere with my direction? And he's like, well, if we had done that, we'd have blown us up. This. Right? And Kirk goes, well, I hope you'll nursemaid me through these things, mister. Right? And he goes, yeah, because I know the ship. Right. And that's what you want your captain. Your captain has to like be half an engineer. So that when your engineer and the captain get together, and they have in the new engineering screen, they have presets, right? Or saved configurations, right? That means that you and the pilot and the engineer have gone and done some testing, some shakedown runs, and said, what we think is when we get to this situation, red alert or whatever, I want you to kick in this preset, right? But then it's less about blaming the engineer over the long term than it is about, all right, we thought that you kicked in that preset like we wanted. It didn't quite do what we needed to do. Let's go out and test and see what else, do we need a different component? Like, and then you're relying on your engineer to be like, when we kicked in that preset, this is what I saw, right?
Yeah.
To give you great information about the next step.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I kind of wonder what's going to happen. Like if I come on your ship, you know, you're like, you know, you say, who wants to, I'll handle your engineering for you, Sirius, you know, and I go down and fire up your screen and I'm like, Class C and D components, what am I supposed to do with this? I kind of wonder if that's going to be a scenario too.
Oh yeah,
if
then
an
you got to call back
engineer-
upstairs. Like, listen,
well, I'm just saying, you got to work with what you got, right? And so, your engineer, if you're the type of person who's been used to working with class C and B or B and A or whatever, and then you get on somebody's ship's got class C, I mean, you got to understand, you can't get from a class C what you were getting from a class B, right? That's another factor. Let me give some shout outs real quick because I've been missing some stuff here. Okay. Mosta, the 100 bits. Thank you for that. Vengeful, good to see you as always. 60 months. You get 5 years solid of subscriptions. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate you. Wicked Nasty Gaming. Thank you for the follow. WNG. In my Chicago, it's WGN. So, but that's cool. We'll go with WNG. DK Wildcat, good to see you. 42 months. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Bando, our good friend Bando Calrissian, who I heard was out partying the other day. Thank you so much for those 5 community subs.
Spread across our Discord faster than you want to know.
Thank you for those 5 communities. That's what I heard. Yeah, listen, I had to put that brother in AFK. He was still in there 24 hours later. Okay, I had to move his name up and put him in AFK because he was gone. Yeah, old boy is right. Yeah, I saw you, brother. I saw you. But thank you for the 5 community subs. Y'all give him some love. Those of you who got the sub there, we appreciate that. We appreciate it. Okay, let's move on. We literally have 22 pages to go through. Jesus. Interface elements. Okay, for those of you who've gone to the engineering screen, there's an interface there that's broken into 3 categories. So we're going to go through those very quickly. The interface, the ship schematic view. It's a central display. It shows a 3D representation of your ship with color-coded indicators for each component and room. This view allows you to identify damaged components at a glance, navigate to specific ship sections, and monitor real-time damage and in and out of combat. I think there's another one here. Yeah, there's a room display. This shows fire status, atmospheric conditions, and loss of atmosphere for each room in the ship. Note that this can create significant information clutter on larger ships. And then lastly, there's a color slate of indicators. Components are displayed with color-coded health states. If it's green, 100 to 50% health is within 100 to 50% health range. If it's yellow, your health range is between 50 and 20. And if it's red, it's between 20% and 1%. And if it's white, that means that component is totally destroyed. Did you get a chance to monkey around with the engineering panel? What do you think about the layout? Serious, what you got?
Yeah, I was monkeying around with it when the yellow triggered at 99%, so it was a little off.
Yeah, that bug, and thank you for mentioning that.
Trying to fix that. I haven't seen whether they fixed that or not, but I'm with Board Gamer. The other day he talked about wanting a better range for yellow, and I agree. Mm-hmm. I think I'd like to be able to adjust when yellow kicks in. Mm-hmm. Would be my preference, but if not, then I think 50% is probably a little too far down the health range before I want to see yellow. I'd like to see yellow at like 65%. But it also depends on, what gameplay is actually like, right? Like, if I'm getting great functionality at 65%, then maybe CIG has it labeled right. But I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Yeah. What's also important to remember is that a fully destroyed component cannot be repaired, right? If you've got 1% on there, you're supposed to be able to start to be able to repair it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's important to note. But I just like a little bit more manipulability about where yellow and red were. Yeah. Because red for me signifies I've got to prioritize action. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And if something has been taken down to, well, and this is to your point earlier, you don't know how people are treating their stuff. You might get on a ship and there ain't been no maintenance on this ship in a minute, right? Yeah. So you get on and they're at 21%, and you're like, oh, they ain't even been in any combat. This is just how they was raised.
How they roll, right? Yeah, right. That's how they roll. In the hoopty. They're right driving around the hoopty. Yeah. Right. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, it would be nice if they give us by CIG. Hey, hopefully you guys are hearing. This would be something that would be great to be able to set that parameter, right? This could be a default number, but let's say I want my green to be between 10 and 75%, right? And then I want my yellow to be between 75 and maybe 30% or 25%, and then 25% is red. If you could set that in there, the engineers could really fine tune it that way. That would be great. You know, I think that the numbers are a little. I don't like the spacing necessarily either, but you know.
And when they talk about information clutter, I want, you know, zoomability
Yeah.
in ways that I can mitigate some of that, you know.
Yeah. You know, filters would work, right? If they did a
Right.
filters thing on the side, we just say which ones you want to see, but if you don't want to see it, just click it off and you don't have to worry about it, right? That would be another way to do it. And again, they'll build this out. You know, like I know it seems like it takes forever for them. It took forever for them to put a search thing in, right? I get it. But, you know, if we give them this input and tell them, you know, if I click on that thing, can I just do the filters and whichever ones I want to come up, that's all I need to see. If I just want to see fire, just give me the option to see fire. If I want to see atmosphere, oxygen, let me just see that. I think that would be a good way to do a fix on that. Okay.
And let me even be further clear about that. I like that we're getting the first cut at this and getting an opportunity to give them feedback. You know, I would actually, I think in a project like this, that is a form of open development.
Yeah.
Right? You know, if they had come with it and they were like, we're done.
It's locked in. Yeah.
I've played other games where they just drop it and they're done.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Your feedback is whatever,
It's
but
done.
they're done.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the time, right? This is the time. I gave this example before, but Grollo gave a great example about game development. He said that it's like building a piece of furniture from IKEA. When you're building it, you don't tighten all the screws. He says you leave some of the screws loose because if you tighten all the screws and you got to go back, it's a pain in the butt. He says you only do it to a certain point, and then when you know everything's in place, that's when you go back and you tighten all the screws up and get it ready. Okay. Let's jump into these component categories. Would you mind reading some of these as we go down?
Yep. The component category, ship components overview, component categories. Ships contain various components organized into functional categories. Understanding each type is crucial for effective engineering, right? So power generation. Power plants and their function is to generate electrical power for all ship systems. Note that, and this isn't on here, but I'll note that if your power plant goes out, that's the end.
You know what? Let me throw this in while you're there. A couple people, I saw one video, first person I saw, I can't think of who it was now, but it wasn't Foxy Loxy, but later Foxy Loxy figured it out too. And the trick was this: when you get that klaxon and your power plant is going critical, I watched so many people back in the back trying to put out fires, cool this, blah, 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 blah. You know what the fix was, Serious?
Grab the power plant with your tractor beam and throw it out the ship.
Exactly. You pull the power plant out and it doesn't go critical. And then you do all the stuff you need to do. Cool it down, repair it, put it back in, boom. You avoid the big boom at the end. Which is, now mind you, that doesn't help you if you have a class 3, right? But if you have a class 1 or class 2.
We were on our Polaris and the thing kicked off. We saw the self-destruct. We all
Start praying. You start praying. We realize that many of you have deities that you pray to. If there's a time, you have 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds. Yeah. So anyway, but for those of you who have class 1s and class 2s, just grab it, unlock your port, grab it, and sit it on the ground, and you're cool. Pardon the expression, you're not cool, but it'll cool off. Okay. All right. Let's continue on with that. You're on thermal management.
Thermal management. The coolers function. Right. Your coolers dissipate heat generated by weapons, thrusters, and other systems. Then you have, do you want me to keep going? Yeah.
Yep.
Defense systems, shield generators, project energy shields to absorb incoming damage. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. I think you made a post on Spectrum that I upvoted that I wanted to talk about in part of this. Navigation and detection, quantum drives, which enable quantum travel between locations. That is not a jump drive, right? Radar function, and we're starting to see radars as physicalized items in ships. That's would have been a long time coming. But they detect ships' signatures and points of interest, and when they get damaged, you detect less, right? Propulsion, main thrusters. They provide the primary thrust for acceleration. Maneuvering thrusters. Their function is to provide attitude control and lateral movement. And retro thrusters provide deceleration thrust. If you've ever been in F4 and you're watching yourself slow down, you'll see thrusters kick in and pushing you the other way that you don't normally see on many ships, right? Those are those retro thrusters. Life support. Life support units are maintain breathable atmosphere, control room temperature, and filter contaminants. And then door systems. The door hologram shows color-coded holographic doors throughout the ship based upon nominal, which is blue, offline doors, which are gray, warning or locked doors, which are yellow, and critical or broken doors, which are red. So y'all watch that ISC, they talked about one of the ways to deal with certain things is to open all the doors till you get to an outside door, right? But if your doors ain't working, can you open all the doors, right? So you gotta know about your door systems as well.
Yeah. These, all these are your engineering, whether you're an engineer or whether you're doing your own ship, it's just you being familiar with what all these are, just making sure. Most of us kind of get it, we know, but it's good that they're spelling out these are all the different areas that you have to pay attention to when you go out with your ship. It doesn't make a difference if you're in your Aurora or your Idris. You need to be familiar with all of these areas.
Or your Aurora Mark II.
Oh yeah, Mr. RSI knew it was coming. Power distribution and management. Every ship has a finite power budget generated by its power plant. This power must be distributed among all ship systems, shields, weapons, thrusters, life support, and other various systems. Managing this power distribution can be a job unto itself, and prioritizing certain systems over another in tense situations could affect the survival of your ship and crew. CIG said something, I don't remember how long ago it was, but I remember them saying it a couple times, that in general, if you do your pre-check on your ship, in other words, you walk around, you make sure your components are at an optimal, decent position, 80%, 90%, 100%, whatever. If everything's working, you should be able to take your ship out and go do stuff and fly, right? The issue becomes if you have encounters, right? Now, can you have no encounter at all and maybe something still fail on your ship? The answer to that is yes. CIG has talked about the fact that your wear dynamic on a ship could be a factor. So example, you've been flying around doing cargo runs for a while. Nobody's messed with you for quite a while. You've been having success in doing that. You keep, every time you go out, you repair, you bring your stuff back up to 100%. That is just your general condition or state of the component. But over time, wear takes place. And each time you've taken it out, maybe you've gone from 100% to 90 to 80 to 70. Maybe one time you had a long run and now you're at 32%. Once you get down below and hit zero, that component can no longer be repaired, can no longer be brought back up to 100%. And that's when you have to get a new component. You didn't have any encounters, no fights. Now, some people don't like that. I saw a couple posts where people said, that's stupid. Why are you doing that? It's called economy. It's called an economy. Your components, like anything else in your car, you change your tires out. Sometimes you have to get a new alternator. Things have a certain lifespan.
Richard Tyrer said it when he talked about 1.0. You have to have inflows and outflows in the economy.
Yes.
You got to have things that you spend money on.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this stuff is all going to get tweaked. There's going to be some life span to these different items. But I just want people to realize it's not just about combat and fighting, just natural, regular gameplay. If you have no encounter, at some point, and possibly, it'll be really interesting. I don't know if this is the case yet. I don't know whether or not taking significant damage also affects wear. In other words, if you keep getting blasted, does the component wear down faster or does it? Liz. YouTube folks, thanks for hanging in there. We're going to find out what's going on with Twitch. I don't know what the deal is. There we are. We're back up on Twitch.
Yep.
Okay, it seems like 1 hour, between 1 hour and 15 and 1 hour and 30 minutes, we're getting kicked out. So there may be something going on. It says that we are unstable in our live right now on Twitch too. I'm sorry, folks. We had this happen last week. It says we have a poor network connection detected in Twitch. So YouTube didn't cut, but Twitch did. But yes, they say AI cut them off. Thanks. All right. But
too much truth around here.
Is that what it is? Yeah, they're shutting us up. Let's see. I'm not using Wi-Fi to stream, Jay. Don't you start with me. That's a direct line. Thank you very much. It's cable. It's cable. Thank you. That's funny. Okay, power management. Okay, so we're going past power management. Let's move on because we just talked about power management.
Yeah, let me talk about fuses and relay systems.
Yes, please do.
The fuse system overview. Fuses act as protective devices between the power plant and individual components. Keeping plenty of these in quick reach of your engineer is imperative for continued operations. Now, what the other thing that they talked about on ISC was that if you want to maximize the relationship between the power plant and the individual components, you have to have fuses in. But even if all fuses are out, there will still be functionality, just diminished functionality. Now, I have an opinion as to why this was done. I don't think this was the original plan, but I have an opinion as to why I think this was done. Do you have an opinion?
I got an opinion on what they need to do. Because
I'll say my thing.
You say yours, and I'll tell you what the fix is. Go ahead.
I think that they did this thing where if you take the fuses out, it still works because they know how people act.
Yeah, they talked about that. Yeah, they talked about that.
And they know that you don't want, even if you develop boarding gameplay, you don't want somebody to be able to take a ship down by boarding and then turning to the right to the fuse panel and pulling a fuse out. Mm-hmm. That's not interesting boarding gameplay.
Yeah.
Right. And so that, when you have a saboteur on board, just pulling a fuse when somebody wants to joke too much and pull a fuse, right? Have you running around, and they realize that this is not Star Fuses. This is Star Systems. They don't want people having to run around every moment worrying about, do they have all the fuses in?
Right.
That's not interesting gameplay. What were you going to say?
Okay, and I know that's the reason why they did it too. Here's my fix. Because there were some people who actually liked the fact that if a fuse was blown or taken out, that it shut down that system. I want fuses to be built on a redundancy system, similar to how we have with these shields, right? So let's say a ship has, now this can be kind of weird, right? Some positions on ships have 3 fuses in them. Some have 2, some have 1. I do like the idea that when the fuse is removed, it has an impact on power distribution throughout the ship. But I also think that fuses are fuses, right? And when a fuse is usually removed from something, it shuts down. So what I would like to see them do is that if you pull all the fuses on the ship, you kill it. So you can still have the power reduction in percentages as you go. Now, what that does is set up a different type of gameplay, because if someone boards the ship, there's usually not just one place that you have to pull fuses from. You've got to go to multiple locations. And if people know that on their ship, your security team or whoever, if they know that people are going to board and try to shut them down, they can start setting up opportunities there to prevent them from getting to those fuses, let alone getting to the cockpit, right? So you could have some gameplay dynamic that comes out of that. But mind you, they have to pull all fuses in order to do that, right? So I'd like to see it in the middle.
It as like a grand circuit.
Yes, right? Exactly. So I would like to see it more in the middle of both, right? And also I wish that fuses, and Kimmy just said this too, I would like to see it so that those fuses are a redundancy thing. So like if you go to a panel where there are 3 of them, it's not that all 3 of them are doing something, it's just that 2 of them are redundant, okay? And so if you pull one, there's no problem. If you pull a second one, there's no problem. But if you pull that third one, you've now impacted that particular circuit. Okay. But I would like to see it kind of be in the middle there, if that makes any sense. So, but you're right. I do agree that, yeah, that would be horrible gameplay, because people would just come in and shut a ship down, and then that would be it. Right. And that's, that would be just, okay.
Let's go back really quick to defense systems and shield generation. I know that you made a post on Spectrum, because it seems like it feels like CIG has this a bit inverted.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, I got you.
I would have thought, and you posted on this, let me just make sure I get this right. Energy weapons would take down an energy shield. Mm-hmm. And now with no shield, what's left for you is armor and hull, and it would take ballistics to get through that. And it feels like we actually have an inverted or reversed system right now, where it's ballistics that take down shields. And that seems weird to me. I think, did you post on that in that way? And if you did, I agree 100%.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
So, because, why would you use ballistics to take down shields? they're ultimately going to, the way you take down shields is to take down shield emitters on surfaces.
Right, exactly. That would be the only thing that would make sense, is that you're taking out shield emitters. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. And again, the idea is, and the reason why this really reflected back to me was back when we came out with the Ares, right? That was part of the thing of those ships being working in tandem together, where you had the Ares with the energy weapons that was going after these capital, mid-capital ships, you know, doing damage to them, bringing their shields down, and then allowing, in matter of fact, in the Squadron 42 piece, that's one of the things they did, was take down the shields first on the King ship, right? And they were finally able to go in.
Run into the emitter.
Exactly. And then the retaliators were able to go in and hit them with their torps, right? So it was just kind of weird. Whenever, now maybe the person was sleepy and writing it at 3 a.m. and got it in reverse. I don't know, but I know there are other people who have also felt like that's the way it works, right? That you use energy to overpower the energy of shields. You wear them down so they either burn out, or they dissipate, or you blow the systems out. And then after that, your ballistics come in and start doing hull damage and penetration damage with that. So let's see what happens with that. Who knows? Okay. But let's do this in this armor pit. Thank you for bringing that back up, because we're going into the armor penetration mechanic. And this is actually a cool mechanic. The penetration mechanics, weapons have penetration value, 1 meter, for a size 3 ballistic Gatling. So in other words, if you fire a size 3 ballistic Gatling, the projectile will go through the ship by 1 meter, okay? 3 feet, roughly. The amount they penetrate depends on the current armor percentage, penetration cone, impact radius, and distance radius in an affected area of penetration. Linear progression. As you reduce armor, the penetration increases linearly. Once you get the armor down to 0%, then the ballistic projectile can actually go through for that meter. Okay. But if you're only damaged it by, like, if it's still 90% hull, you're only going to go through just a little bit. 80% hull, a little bit more. 50% hull, even more. And then once you've worn that area down, you get the full penetration of the projectile. That's basically what they're saying. Weapons types matters. This is where they said ballistic weapons are less effective against armor compared to energy weapons, which do 1.4 times normal damage to armor.
Yeah, that's weird.
Don't get it. Component damage. Penetration is checked within a cone, not just a straight line. If a component is within the cone, it takes damage based on the penetration value and armor penetration. Now,
that makes sense.
Togi brought up a really good point about this, and he talked about there are some ships that literally components are right next to each other, literally right next to each other. Others have components at various places on the ship. And so the question becomes, when you have penetration happening, and let's say that a person is using their precision targeting to target the shields, it makes a little bit of sense to think that if I'm targeting the shields and there's a component next to it, that there's a possibility of damage to that. But if there's automatic damage to that, I don't know how cool I feel about that. That you could maybe hit, like, let's say there's 3 components right next to each other and you're targeting the middle one. Well, now the middle one's catching it and the other ones are also catching it too. And to me, that makes a lot of work for whoever's on that ship who's trying to do repairs, that even though I may be targeting this, I've also now got to worry about the things that are directly next to it that are catching damage, right? Now, I don't know if that's because it's just too difficult to focus in on just the one, and that they've done that, and that's why they have the cone because of the different ships. But I do think that for ships like a what's the Drake thing, the cutter, where everything's really compacted in the same area. I know even on the new ship, the Clipper, all those components are right there stacked up with each other, right? And so you might be hitting 4 components at one time just when you're targeting one thing.
But one of the ways to make that make sense, right? Like, different manufacturers, they build the way they build, right? But one of the ways to make this make sense is, instead of us ultimately experiencing what they've said as the range, it is a window around which crafting and the player economy can build out something that works better, right? So if ultimately, player crafting in game crafting can build a armor piece, right?
Yeah.
That works double or triple what standard armor does, and I can put that on a piece of and protect that section of the clipper or cutter with that armor that I can buy from a player in game.
Yeah.
Then that makes sense to me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, just to stop, let me hold you there for a second, because you're touching on something that you said. This is what you said earlier about how things evolve and we just don't have everything yet, right? CIG talked about our ships being, when you first get them, they're like at this base level, right? And that they will upgrade from a level 1 to a level 2 to a level 3, level 4. Just like I was talking about how everything being tested with components is at a stock level, right? So the question becomes, if I put a class B and my ship hull has been upgraded to a level 3, are these issues mitigated? Not mitigated, but reduced. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so that you don't have one, like to Togi's point, if you take Togi's point, in my view, to its ultimate outcome, then you're talking about ships that just won't be flown, because that can be done to them. They can lose multiple components, and ships that'll always be flown because they have redundant components in different locations and make it like you don't want that.
Right.
What you want is for that other ship to be able to mitigate that, and the best way to do that would be with what players could build out.
Yeah. It's a good point. Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, there was more to that? Weapon types matter? Did I miss something? Yeah, I did. I'm sorry. Weapon types matter. Ballistic weapons are less effective against armor compared to energy weapons. We read that part. Component damage. Penetration is checked within a cone. We read that part. Breaking armor is what we didn't read. Even smaller weapons can eventually wear down armor over time, but larger weapons penetrate deeper and faster. And I think it was the Prisoner, or was it Cyberwolf? Somebody was saying about not wanting ships to be able to do that much damage. I think that is going to be a factor that, you know, the smaller ships and stuff won't be able. We're talking about capital ships now. You know, they'll be the Mosquito, right? They can do some type of damage. You want to say no damage, but they should be able to do some type of damage to a ship, but not to a point where you have to worry about one fighter. Now, mind you, if you've got 20 fighters beating on you, you might have to start thinking about taking some type of significant damage. But there are other things to see.
If I find a derelict Idris with a Gladius, and I want to sit there for 4 hours.
We're on it.
It should work, but it'll take 4 hours.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Exactly. Okay, let's hit this next one here. This is on you. Damage states.
Damage states and component health. How components take damage. Components can be damaged through various weapon fire, penetrating hull and shields, collision impacts with other objects or terrain, overheating when operating beyond thermal limits, and fire damage. Keeping components repaired is essential to full ship performance. Component health thresholds will quickly hinder your ship, and keeping components repaired is essential to keep full ship performance. 175% health, the components will be at full performance. I guess 74 to 50, 74 to 70 health, minor performance degradation. Right, 49 or 50 to 25, significant performance reduction, and 24, 25 to 10 health, severely reduced performance, 9, 10 to 1, near failure performance. When it gets to 0, the component is critically destroyed and non-functional, where power plants will go into critical state and we thermal runaway, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah, I love the fact that they've added, and this is something that I think maybe some people were not aware of, is that the reduction in health affects the performance of the component as well. So it's still alive, but you've also reduced the performance of that thing. So if you're riding around in your ship and you say, well, I'm at 70% or I'm at 60%. Yeah, well, you're still okay. You're in the green, but the performance has actually been affected by it, right? So that gives you another motivation. So when you want to pull that extra bit of power out and all of a sudden it doesn't feel like your ship is performing the way it was, it's because you're not optimal, you know? And so I think that this is another thing. I know there are going to be some people who aren't going to like that. They don't want to feel like they're having to, babysit their ship like that. I think it's going to be based upon a lot of things. Does this happen every once in a while? It's kind of like eating food in a game. You know what I mean? If you got to eat all the time, it drives you crazy. Yeah, it drives you crazy, right? You don't go get a double dog every 15 minutes. But if this is something that if I'm not having any encounters and I have to do this once every 3 days or once a week, am I going to be mad about it? No. It also immerses me in to taking care of my ship and being aware of the state of my ship. I would not want this to be something that just goes for a very long time because, you're going to forget or you're not going to remember when was the last time I checked or whatever, but that's just me. Right. Okay. Okay. That's good stuff.
And there should be a reward for folks who do check.
Yeah. Yeah. Life, living.
You start every session with a pre-flight checklist, and you go in and zap your components with a little health taste. Make sure they're up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. TJ Mad Cutter Gaming, thank you for the follow. We appreciate you being here. Hope you're enjoying the show. The wear system. Damage caused by combat, collision, fires, and direct actions against the component. These can be repaired and restored to a pre-damaged state using multi-tools and materials. I think there's another page for this. Let me make sure. Yeah.
Well, repaired and restored. That's of note. That's interesting.
Yes, absolutely. Let me finish. I'll read it. I'll come back to it. Wear accumulated through normal use over time and will gradually degrade maximum component performance. Wear damage cannot be repaired through the multi-tool use, which means that over time, the only way to restore functionality will be to replace the worn-out component or repair it at a station. Operating time.
Okay.
High-stress operations, such as combat, high power usage, and environmental exposure all will have an effect on component repair. Okay, so that answered the question I had earlier. Can you accelerate the wear system by stressing out your system, combat, or high power? And the answer to that is yes. Yes, it's not just set on a fixed timer, which is good to know, okay?
But they also say repair at a station will restore, says it will restore functionality under wear.
Yeah,
I guess it'll reduce, it'll eliminate the wear, I guess.
The only way to restore functionality will be to replace the worn out component or repair.
If you just do repair at a station, you're solving for wear is what they're saying.
Okay.
That's what I'm reading.
So you're saying durability goes back to 100%? Wear goes back to 100%?
That's what I'm reading.
Is that what you're reading? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So what that means is when you start thinking about, and again, this show has, one of the sub themes of this particular show has been everything ain't in the game yet. Right? But a carrack, an anvil carrack, is supposed to be an exploration ship, right? Mm-hmm. That means you're going to be away from stations for a while.
Right.
Well, you've got this repair function.
Right.
Right. But you're going to have to track your wear, not just your damage. And at some point, you're going to have to bring that carrack back to a station to solve for the wear, unless you bring other components and swap them out.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So basically, it's the dry dock thing, right? You bring your ship back into the dry dock for your whatever they call it. What do they call it when they go over your ship and everything? Make sure everything's back up to snuff, which is cool. It gives reasons for people to go to
like
stations, a shakedown, right? So it gives the people the reasons to go back to the station, restock, reload, get yourself together, let the mechanics work on your ship, and then head back out and do your thing. But you don't have to go to the station all the time.
How long different things take and how it feels will be the key, right? Because you're going to want to be able to, you're going to want to feel, you want to feel in an exploration ship that you can do the 5-year mission and not have to come back to space dock.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
absolutely.
You can be out there, and if you've properly equipped yourself, that you can do it yourself, and then you come back after the long exploration to a station to do that full look at.
Yeah, yeah.
Run down.
Yeah. Okay, that one's on you.
Repair system, along with the engineering screens, the primary tools an engineer will use is the multi-tools and repair attachments. Using RMC, or repair material composite, the player will be able to directly see the health and status of components, weapons, hulls, relays, and more. An engineer can see component damage either by looking on the engineering screen or in person by aiming their repair tool at the component. By aiming your repair tool at the damaged item, such as a component or ship hull, and holding the trigger, the player will apply a repair beam that will take time based on component size. This could take quite a bit of time, but multiple players working multiple repair tools together can combine their power to speed the process up.
Yeah. By the way, if you've ever wondered from
Sound like multiplayer.
well, I was going to say, if people have ever wondered why you should have a 1/8 SCU box, for those of you who are salvagers, load them suckers up with some canisters of RMC and sell them to people. Okay, folks who don't want to do it, you can use some, listen, you salvagers can make some good money by selling, 20 RMC canisters in a box and getting rid of them. Anyway, go ahead. What are you going to say about the repair system? Any thoughts?
No, I just said that end part sounded like multiplayer. Right?
Yeah.
Like, again, you're going to be able to do it solo, but there's a benefit.
Yeah, to having other people. Yeah. And I have seen some people who are literally 2 or 3 people have taken out their multi-tools. And mind you, they did accelerate repair times up too, by the way. Repair times were really slow in the beginning, but now they are faster. But I know there are certain components where it takes longer. I think power plants take they're not as fast as like if you're doing your shield generator, but a power plant takes a little bit longer to do. And again, if you have 2 people doing it, it goes faster. 3 people doing it faster. And we're talking about on the bigger ships, y'all. We're not talking about you solo players. You got smaller components. But if you're doing like a class 3 or a size 3, having 2 people, if they're available, makes it happen a lot faster. Okay.
Now, I guess I have a question for the chat in that it takes a long time for some of these components. Is that because they're on while you're doing it? Does it make a difference if you turn the component off and do it?
I didn't see anybody do anything other than the one we talked about earlier where people pulled the power plant. That was the only one. I didn't see it get expedited. I just saw that avoided the critical, what do you call it? Critical mass, or, the blowing up of the thing.
Right. Eject the core.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's basically what it came down to, right? That's a good question. I don't know if turning them on and off does anything. With a cooling process, does it do anything if you shut it down? I don't know. Fire, I don't know. I know one of the things I see people make big mistakes on is that they're not paying attention to the temperature readings on their fire extinguisher, and they're gauging a fire being out based on visuals. They see the flame go out and they think the component is okay, and they don't realize that the component is still at 200 Celsius or 150. You haven't brought it down. So it's really important to pay attention to the temperature reading, that you see it get down, 30 C, 25 C or whatever, before you move on. And I know that can be very difficult, but that's why a lot of times components reignite, because all you did was put the flames away and you think and the thing is still hot, basically. It's still, extremely hot. Okay, component replacement. Replacement will become necessary when the component health is fully destroyed, 0% health, or the component wear is too high for effective operation. This also applies to fuses or general upgrades you want to make with the higher quality parts. Replacement components must match the exact slot size. Can't force a size 2 into a size 3, or a size 3 into a size 2. Just keep that in mind.
Can you put a size 2? Can you put a size 1 into a size 2 and get terrible performance?
I don't think so. I don't think the connections. I don't think the connections are there for it to work that way. I don't think they are.
Maybe in a Gray's Market ship.
Yeah, maybe. Accidents will happen, and sometimes staying on top of heat management is not possible with your engineer non-operational at the time, and now your ship has caught fire. Before we get into fire, there is a mode that we haven't talked about where you do get a one-time, if I'm not mistaken, opportunity to repair your ship from the MFD. You know what I'm talking about?
That's also for smaller solo ships too.
Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's you turn it off or on or something like that, and it gives you a certain percentage back to
right.
The component.
Like is it 20%? Guys, you guys know what it is?
20 or 25%. Maybe chat can tell us, but it was something like that. It was in the 20s.
Yeah. It's something like that. 20%. Thanks, prisoner. Okay.
20%.
Yeah. So there is that one, but it's a one-time thing, until you go back into the shop. So use it wisely. Fires can occur when components take damage and overheat. Fuel lines are breached, electrical systems short circuit, or external weapons ignite flammable materials. These fires will need to be contained or risk spreading throughout the ship as it moves from room to room, damaging and destroying your hard-earned loot, components, nested vehicles, crew, and crew. One of the things that was in here that was listed that caught my attention was it talked about igniting flammable materials. And we know that even though components and stuff, catch fire, we also know that the materials of the ship, whatever makes up the ship can catch fire. And it implies also that if you have other things like it says your loot, if the CIG has showed us that there's different types of cargo materials they want us to take. Some of them are volatile. Some of them may be frozen. Some of them may be explosive, that there's possibility that if there's penetration or heat, that even possibly those things could blow up. Remember when we used to pick up those what were those little things? We used to pick up the boxes and we had to deliver them by a certain time frame. If we didn't, they would blow up.
Threat.
Yeah, remember those things,
Yeah, I remember you had to look at them and see the timer.
Yeah. And then they also talked about that there'll be these different types of cargo containers that are designed for flammable and this, that, and the other that we'll be getting too. So those are going to be other factors that you're going to have to think about. If you happen to be carrying some stuff that's volatile, and then you got a fire breaking out, the explosion may not be because of your power plant, but it could be because of heat that builds up and sets something up. Thank you, Zeta Prolinite. Thank you. Okay. And then fire suppression. There are multiple ways to help stop fire spread and remove it. Using the supply of fire extinguishers around the ship might be your first choice. These FPS items will allow your crew to hit the fire directly at the source. These extinguishers have a limited resource stored inside of them and will need to be recharged by placing them back in their rack in the ship when not in use. We've been seeing fire extinguishers forever, and now they're finally usable items that are physicalized. They do have a green meter, if I'm remembering correctly. They're lights that are there, LEDs or yellow, and it goes down as you're using it. And if you put the fire extinguisher back in its place, it does recharge. I don't know what the recharge time is on them, but they actually have a decent amount of material in them. They're not, you know what I mean? Like you get a good amount of use out of it.
You don't feel like it runs out quick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I looked at was like you hit a set of components, you take care of it, and then you're looking to see like, is this already done? And there was still plenty.
Yeah. Now with fire suppression, you talked about this earlier about the other option is to vent your ship. And I'm going to ask you, in chat, this would be a great little survey for you all. Would you want venting your ship to actually be like what happens in reality? And what I mean by reality is obviously, one, the oxygen gets vented. And if you're back there without some type of equipment on to protect yourself, then obviously you're not going to have oxygen. Secondly, CIG showed us years ago being able to create vacuum in a space, that when something gets penetrated, that there's a vacuum that can take place. Would we want those type of hazards to be also a factor when it comes to putting out fire if we're venting? And Serious, what do you think? You think that's too much? Will people have enough time to put on a suit that allows them to, in case there's venting? Do they need to put on a strap that makes sure they don't go out of the ship if you open up the back hatch? I know, Jay. That's what I want to know. Yeah. Tell me. That's what I'm asking. Tell me what do you guys want? What do you guys think is gameplay and significant? I know, Jay. That's what I'm asking. Tell me how it works. You're not saying nothing. You're telling me how it doesn't work. Say what should happen. That's what I'm looking for. Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
I'll tell you what I want. What I want is to continue to have a game of consequence, right?
Okay.
So, first of all, if fire's breaking out on your ship and you're not in combat, you need to check yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You better run your ship better.
Yeah.
Right. There should be a whole bunch of fire on a ship that hasn't been in combat. But of course, if you've had combat, if you're coming back from combat, if you've had deep space exploration, you got a lot of wear and tear on ships. If something happens,
right?
I am interested in the ability to vent rooms and vent the ship I think if you're in there and the ship is vented and there's no breathable atmosphere and you're not in a suit, and that's it for you, right?
And that's what CIG said. And let me say this real quick. CIG said that they know that the atmosphere thing is an issue. They haven't put it in yet. So from my understanding, that is what's going to happen. If you vent, the oxygen is going to go out and you as an individual will not have oxygen to breathe. So that is, they just said it's not in there yet.
Yeah, I also like that there's limited oxygen on spacesuits, but we have to be careful about what that means, right? So when we go out and we do missions on planets where we have our suits, we don't want there to be like when we do the Hathor missions over at Aberdeen, right? You could get a lot of stuff done before you have to look and go, oh man, I need to get back to a ship and get some oxygen, right? That time frame I felt right to me, right? That there was a lot I could get done, but at some point I needed to look down and go, oh, I'm at 18%. I got to get back to the ship, right? I want the same thing if I have to wear my suit on the ship. I don't want crews just running with space suits, right? That's not interesting to me, right? Like some people are like, well, I'll just keep the ship vented the whole time and we'll just run with suits, right?
Right. Well, we used to have it. Remember back in the day, suits had a 30-minute limit time on them. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
you had to take your helmet. I'm just saying. Remember, you used to have to take your helmet off because you could, if after 30 minutes, you would fall out, which I think they're going to bring back. I hope they do.
Yeah, something like that, right? And Jade says it at the bottom too. Yeah, you don't want to see people wearing their suit all the time. That's not interesting.
And Jade, I'm sorry, I mean to interrupt you. Jade is bringing up something that CIG did say. In case y'all didn't notice, they did talk about suits having wear and tear, flight suits. That's not just an idea she's throwing out there. They said that that's what they even, everything's progression, guys. It's a matter of time before it comes, but that is something. And we're saying this because we want people to understand that what we're getting right now, as Thorsten said, we're not overwhelming everybody. We're just starting with this. This whole mechanic, when he talks about what Star Citizen is about, it's not about the engineering panel. It's about all this stuff that is a part of what it takes to operate a ship in this game, right? All the considerations that you will have to do. The suit lockers, why there's suit lockers. It's not so you can have 10 of your favorite suits. It's that you're going to need different environmental suits. You may need to have the fire suppression suits that we've seen that came from the ASD missions. All this stuff needs to be a part of your arsenal when you go into space,
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean a thousand thoughts, but just to wrap up, my vision, right? And they're not going to necessarily do my vision, is to see folks wearing clothing.
Yeah.
On the ship.
Yeah.
And because it's reasonable, and then putting on spacesuits when we need to put on spacesuits. And so CIG, my hope is that they will encourage an environment. They will create an environment that encourages it.
I think what you're going to get, I mean, you can encourage it, right? But there are some people who play out of expediency. Is that the word? Expediency. Then there are other people who actually enjoy the idea of going to the locker and changing their clothes, right? A lot of us didn't do it back in the day because it was too dangerous, because you may fly out the ship and die, right? So that's why you never took off your helmet, right? It wasn't because of...
Or you walked to a certain part of the ship and it didn't work.
Right, there's no oxygen, right? So it wasn't because we wanted to do that, right? It wasn't because we wanted to wear our helmets all the time. It was like, you're going to have to wake up in the med bay and wake up in the hospital if you don't wear your helmet when you're flying around. So hopefully as the game becomes more stable, and I've noticed this with people now in the game, I see people walking around in regular clothes now. I see way more people doing that now and putting on different things now, right? They're more comfortable with doing that, and that extra step of taking off their clothes and putting something on. And a lot of that has to do with game mechanics. If they make the game mechanics easier, I've heard people say forever, if they just made something that, like, if I have a suit up that I like to wear, if I could just click on that and everything fly on me, I'd take off my clothes. But the fact that I got to take off everything individually and move it and find it again, I don't want to take off my clothes. You know what I mean? It's too much work. So CIG, make it so that I have a certain setup of how I wear my armor, and let me put it in a closet. And all I got to do is put that on. And when I have my going out to dinner clothing, I just put that on. I don't mind the individual stuff, but I can imagine for people when you take off your armor, you know, your gun goes away, your ammo goes away, your med pins go away, and you got to put all that stuff back on again. So I can understand why people don't like to take off their stuff, right? But I also know that there are people who do like, you know, going through the motions of putting all that stuff on. I don't know. It's just me. It's just me. Well, we got some good chat. Boy, you guys are chatting it up about this whole thing with the clothing and stuff. That's just pretty cool. Let's see. Is there one more? I think that was it. I think there was one more. Oh, it was just the fire suppression, right?
Fire suppression.
Yeah. Oh, Meister Chewy. Hey, thank you so much for the raid. I know we're about to wrap up. Aw. But thank you so much for thinking of us and sending over your viewers. And we want to say welcome to you and appreciate you being here. We have been talking about the 4.5 and the things that are coming with this engineering. And we've been having great conversations with our community and people who are here today, just kind of covering what was in the patch notes and getting a better understanding of where CIG is trying to go with the engineering. Let's just see what happens. And we really, I think, Sirius, you said this earlier, you encouraged people to get in there, put their comments in, share on Spectrum, you know, what it is you think that will be better. What are other considerations? You know, CIG is not NASA, thank God. They're a game company. And so we need to help them to make the best game possible. And your voices do mean something. I know sometimes people feel like, nobody's listening. They do listen to you all, especially if you all speak in unison. Sometimes it's the individual too, but a lot of you guys have great suggestions. We've seen great suggestions in the chat today. And so put those things out there and let them know, because this is going to have an impact on not just us as players, but the future of the persistent universe. So definitely. Yes, thank you, Jade. Yes, thank you. Use the Ask the Dev section because they do go in there and look. Absolutely, Jade. You hit that right on the money. Okay. It's that time. We are right on the top of the hour, and
We do have a question. I
do
know
we?
I saw at least one.
Sure. What's our question that we have?
I don't.
Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can find it.
Admiral Kusanagi.
It was Admiral. Oh, let's see what the Admiral had to say. He says, "How do you envision server blades interoperating with the new engineering mechanic? Would they be easier to get back online, quicker to exchange out, etc.?" That's a good question, Admiral.
What kind of server blades?
Yeah,
you mean
that's
server blades
what I was
on
going
the
to
ship?
say. Yeah, he's talking about on the ship. Yeah. So here's the deal with blades, right? There's been what CIGs wants blades to be, and then there's the mythology of what blades are going to be, right? For some people, they've envisioned blades as being the fix-all to multiplayer, right? How they can get around multiplayer. For some people, blades have been ways to buff or enhance certain systems in their ship. When CIG put out the first set of server blades, there was a lot of excitement, because people have been talking about blades forever, and people bought blades looking for some level of visibly significant change in performance in their ship. There were other people who felt blades, we don't want them to have that big of a save because they give people an edge, especially when the whole thing with money came up, right? We all know the story. CIG said, we'll make them available in the store. If people want to buy them to have them all the time, that's fine, but we'll make sure that they're in the store and people can get them anyway. But the issue is that what level of impact should blades have? Now, whatever that impact is, to answer your question about their interoperating as far as engineering goes, should they take damage? Yes. Should a blade be able to be overloaded when there's damage? Let's say you're using a blade to control a turret and that turret takes damage. Can that blade burn out, right? Start taking damage? Absolutely it can, so that you have to carry multiple blades with you. Again, it's a part of the economy, right? Those things that come and go. Whether or not blades, I'm just using blades in a very limited space. I know we had blades that are supposed to enhance some levels of performance by a certain percentage. I would say yes, they should be impacted, just like any other system would be. A computer system, if it takes damage, there's a possibility that there could be damage done to something like that. So, yeah, to answer your question, I think that that it should be impacted in some way. And engineering should be able to monitor that if there are blades active, inactive, things like that. And again, that's all a part of the growing process. We know that there's CPUs, there's server rooms, blade rooms on many of the ships, so we know that they're going to go that route and physicalize them. We've seen the blades down at I call it the Apple store, down in the front line, whatever the store is called in Microtech. We know that they have that idea of having something like that in the game. Okay. All right. I think that was the only question. That was the only question.
I think so.
Yeah. All righty. Well, let's talk about what is coming up next week. We are approaching the holiday season of Luminalia, and for many of us, those who celebrate the Christmas season, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's, all that great stuff is coming up as we're wrapping up 2025. And obviously, as we get ready, we have about 2 shows left for this year. And next week's show will be our second to the last show for this year, which is going to be Update 4.5. We really try to be timely with our topics, and we try to read the tea leaves and see where CIG is. And so, hopefully next week, we know that most of the people will have dabbled in 4.5. If they haven't played it, they will have at least seen videos and have an understanding of what 4.5 is. So we're going to be because there were more things that were added. It's not just, we're just talking about the engineering today, but next week we're going to be talking about everything that CIG has finally released into this patch. We know that they want to get the patch out. It's in PTU now. They wanted to have it out by the end of the year. So technically it's available to us. It's not live. Whether CIG will keep it in PTU and continue to work on it and let 4.4 remain so that people have choices, or whether CIG, if it's in a good state, and we do know that even if it's in a good state in PTU, we know that sometimes when it goes live and you get everybody in, then you get a whole nother set of problems that can arise. And that might be another factor too. So they may go safe, stay PTU and live, which I think a lot of people would say, just do that. Just incorporate, just do that. Versus putting it in live. But at the same time, when they put it in live, they get a lot of data, especially during the holiday season. A lot of analytics come in. A lot of people get to play that normally don't get to play. They put in hours and hours because people are off for the vacation. And then when CIG comes back from their vacation, they're able to get a lot of good info. So it's kind of a bittersweet thing, whichever way it goes, right? But that'll be next week, next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. The week after that, just to give you a pre-notice, is going to be our holiday show. We always do our holiday wishes at the end of the year. That's our final show for the year. And we're going to be doing a very special giveaway at that time. So we're going to drop some clues to some things that are going to be coming up for that. But we really hope that you guys will be able to join us for that show at the end of the year. I will tell you not to miss it. It will be a very, very special show that we're going to be doing as a generous way to say thank you to you all for, especially one person in particular is going to be really happy that we want to be able to say thank you for just being here and supporting us throughout the year and for the years for that matter. So, Sirius, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Don't miss that end of the year show.
Don't hype it up too much. They're going to be like, man, they made us do all this stuff and all they gave us was 2 Auroras. What the heck? Mm-hmm. Be mad. Mark ones on top of it. So I don't know.
Classics.
We'll give them the classic, right? Dude, give them a classic. All right. Let's see. Who are we? I don't know. Did the fast car drop anything in here for me for the? I have not looked in the Twitch alert to see if you got somebody in there. No, we don't have anybody in. I'm reading the wrong thing.
You could do Papadopoulos.
Is Papadopoulos on right now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to hook up Papadopoulos. If I see him. Old Man Observers. Yeah, there's a lot of new content creators out here. We have to start looking around for some new friendly faces to send our raids to. But tonight, we are going to do Papadopoulos. How come they got all these names? Papa Bear, Papa this.
He's Papadopoulos 84.
Will you please spell it for me?
EAPPADOP.
I see him now. I got Papa Frenchie, Papa Tango, Papa everybody out here. Goodness gracious. All right. Looks like Papadopoulos is flying around in a Valkyrie or an Asgard. Probably the Asgard, since it's the ship of the month. It's probably the Asgard he's flying around in. So when you guys get over with Papadopoulos, let them know that you came over from the Soul Citizens. Thank you all again for being here. Thank you for those who follow, subscribed, who rated. We really appreciate you all. To my good friend, SeriousFun, love you. Thank you, my brother, for being here. I always appreciate your wisdom and your knowledge. And to all of you all, once again, stay safe. Take care of yourselves. Next Sunday, 4.5. Till then, peace, love, soul. See you soon.